It is crunch time here in Clarksville, Tennessee. Jeff Matthews Bree Houston in the studio for the first time this semester. Now, Bree, a lot of things going on in the world revolving around sports, local and national level. NFL has just started kicking off. Major League Baseball is about to start wrapping up, and the NBA is in the wrap-up for their season. But we're going to start with high school football here in the Clarksville area. Clarksville High 49 to Rockvale's 28. Joe Burns 21, Houston County 20. Jackson Christian 41, Clarksville Academy 0, a big goose egg. Montgomery Central 19, Northwest 10. Rossview 7, Northeast 4. That's a very interesting score. West Creek 19, Cheatham County 7. It was actually a pretty good game. Wilson Central 49 and Kenwood 19. Now, to start off the topic, that Rossview Northeast game, definitely an interesting score.
Crazy. All my years of watching football, local football, high school, college, pro, whatever, I've never seen a final score of 4.
No. Now, I've seen some scores end in twos, like a 2, like one safety, and that being the only score that you have, but never seeing 2 safeties.
2 safeties in one game, but it's 2020. We should be expecting the unexpected, I guess.
That is true. Anything can happen here in 2020. But Rossview does have a pretty good defense. I've actually seen them play a couple of times. Not horrible. Definitely some things that they could pick up. But, 7 points only. So Northeast also has a pretty darn good defense if they were able to only hold them to a touchdown.
Well, I've heard situations it's really good defense or really bad offense. So
that's true, too. Sometimes you just can't get that run game going, and that's what a lot of high schools try to focus on is trying to get that run game established.
Yeah.
Not many high school kids are going for the long 60-yard passes into the end zone. But on top of that, I tell you what, one team that did establish a run game was that West Creek-Cheatham County game. West Creek really was able to get that run game established kind of early, but at the same time, Cheatham County's defense didn't look terrible. It was an interesting game because Cheatham County would have moments on defense where they looked super strong, and then 1 or 2 plays would be letting West Creek move the ball down the field quite a bit. And then it was the same for West Creek. I think really what happened was Cheatham County, I think it was in the second quarter, allowed West Creek to recover a fumble, I think it was, on their side of the field. So it was pretty good field position for West Creek to start out that second quarter, which then led to a touchdown. But, overall, that game was pretty close, and at one point we all thought that Cheatham County was actually going to come back and win it.
Well, when it comes to defensive fronts, teams are looking for other teams' weaknesses, and that's what I believe happened. They ran against a brick wall for a few times, and then they found the weakness and they exposed it.
That is true, and that is, like you said, that is a huge part of high school football is where are the team's weaknesses at. And I think for a lot of teams, the red zone is such a troublesome area for high school players. One, because defenses seem to pick up a lot more when they're in the red zone, and then on top of that, a lot of high school players, a lot of high school teams don't have a seasoned kicker, someone who can actually put points on the board if needed to.
Yeah.
I think that has been a huge struggle for some teams. I know I've seen Sycamore have struggles with putting a ball into the air from a decent distance. I know Davidson Academy, who is in Nashville, they came down and played Sycamore too. They had some trouble, I believe, kicking the ball. Cheatham County, I think, had a kicker who was able to put one in, I think, from about 30 yards, I think it was. I could be mistaken on that one. But even then, at that distance, it was a struggle. Some of them can kick it that far, but where it really becomes a problem is it's not accurate. They're putting it left and right. They're putting it low. They're putting it, just not on target. But they have the leg to get it there. And I think that ties into a lot of teams don't have kicking coaches.
Yeah, and just to encourage some of the high schoolers out there who are missing kicks, they're not the only ones missing kicks, but I'm sure we'll get into that a little later on in the show.
We definitely will get into that later in this show. But now we're going to switch gears and talk about more local stuff. Austin Peay going up against Pittsburgh did not go well, as Austin Peay would probably say, as they take a loss 55-0.
Yeah, tough loss right here for Austin Peay, and it results as being 0-2 of the season thus far.
Now, 0-2, not how you really want to put it out, but it has been a hard season. Austin Peay only has 1 game left this fall against Cincinnati. But then on top of that, Central Arkansas game was actually a pretty good game. Austin Peay
So
almost able to make that comeback, but just falling short just a tad. This Pittsburgh game was just a rough time. I believe, I think it was last season we went to Georgia and played the Bulldogs, and I think we lost that game 50-0. And so now to go to Pittsburgh and losing 55-0, it makes it kind of hard to enjoy the season for sure, especially if you're Jeremiah Oatsvall, who is his first season back since last season, went down with a leg injury early.
Exactly. But we have to look at Pitt's quarterback, Kenny Pisac. He finished 14 of 20, 227 yards. So, I mean, he was working on offense.
He was definitely putting it down the field. And I think if you can get a quarterback who can make that completion rating, I mean, man, more power to you, because he was on fire. I mean, all of Pittsburgh was on fire for that game.
And I think, I had the chance to speak with Isaiah Neumann before the Pitt game, and we discussed how it would feel to play in an NFL stadium. He said, well, he's played in the Titans Stadium, and, this game they played at the Heinz Field. So he said it really wasn't a big thing, but I think for some of the other players, I think, it had to be mind-boggling because they aspire to be there one day and play there regularly on Sunday, play in the NFL. So to be there, maybe that could have been a factor, but also, Pitt's just a good team, and you have to hand it to them.
I want to get your opinion on this. Could you see having like a national spotlight on Austin Peay on that first week against Central Arkansas? Could that have played into a factor into how Austin Peay plays moving forward? I mean, Austin Peay has not really had that big of coverage before, especially on primetime ESPN, opening college football season across the nation. Does that put any extra pressure on Austin Peay to really go out there and perform?
I would say yes. Isaiah said no.
Okay.
He said it was just like football, any other game. Me, I'm thinking everyone's watching. There hasn't been football for 3+ months.
Right.
Actually, almost a year if you go to December, but of course we're before December. But there hasn't been football in all of America. The whole world has been shut down. And now we're getting back into sports, and this is the first game everyone gets to view after being quarantined, locked in, watching reruns of old games. I would think there would be a lot of pressure.
I mean, I think that there has to be, and even if you don't admit that there's pressure, I think there is, especially like in Austin Peay's situation. Not only did you open up college football season, you opened college football season with a 75 rushing yard touchdown.
Yes.
I mean, not only did that happen, which made national news, I mean, it was replayed numerous times on ESPN. The amount of shares, the amount of clicks that it had, I mean, was outrageous. Everyone was just so excited for football to be back, and then to see the very first play of college football be a 75-yard rushing touchdown. I mean, you definitely put your team in a huge spotlight. And like I said, I don't know if you can't admit to it, I think that there's still room there that there's some pressure.
Oh, it has to be. But congratulations to the freshman C.J. Evans. College football, your first real game in front of millions, and you come out and make that type of play. He said he was super excited, but he wanted to show his fans, his coaches, that he was reliable.
Right. And that's a great way to do it if you really want to impress the coaches, impress some people watching. I mean, there's a lot of effort on that, and I think a lot of the comments were really impressed with his movement, being able to just get to that outside and just take off like that, how he did. I mean, I think he has a bright future here at Austin Peay if he chooses to stay here.
We can say that the kid has wheels. He's definitely fast.
Oh yeah, and I'm excited to see him play in the next couple of years. Have him, mature a little bit. Have him get a few more reps with Jeremiah this season, and then let's see where he ends up in a couple. Well, I mean, if we have a season in the spring, if we don't, any conference games, I'd love to see it, but still kind of up in the air.
Yeah, very up in the air. I've heard numerous things, none official. Of course, we know this next game, Saturday against Cincinnati, will be the last game for this fall portion of the schedule. Moving forward, we're not sure. I've heard there will be a small game or a small schedule. I've heard there won't. So I guess we just have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see. Now, I know I really would love to see that season of conference play, but I don't get to make those decisions.
Yes.
But what I can make a decision on is our next topic. Now, we're going to switch it over to the opposite of football, and we're going to talk some baseball. Now, some really cool things have kind of come up in the baseball world locally is that Justin Timberlake, yes, I'm not joking, Justin Timberlake, became an investor with an investing group in Nashville to bring Major League Baseball to Nashville.
That's right. He's investing in Music City Baseball. But he has experience in this before. Many might not know that he's a minor owner for the Grizzlies.
See, and I didn't know that until I started digging into this story. You're right. He is a minority owner for the Grizzlies. And not knowing that, but now knowing it, I'm kind of excited to see how this all plays out of bringing baseball into Nashville. I mean, we already have the Nashville Sounds, who are a minor league team, AAA ball for the affiliates for the Brewers. The Texas Rangers. But to bring a Major League Baseball team in is going to take a lot more than just an investing group. And that was brought up in an article from the Tennessean. You have to have city money to kind of make these things happen, and you have to be able to figure out where you're going to be able to put a ballpark.
So here's the goal. They want to bring this all in fruition 2024. So 4 years. The biggest problem is a location. A ballpark is not just going to disappear or just, appear. So they have to figure out where they're going to put it. They have to go through the city, the steps with the city to discuss where a location where it can go. It's just not about money.
Right.
But I feel like they have enough money to actually make it happen.
Now, I think you're right. Now, in just the investing group, and it's not just Justin Timberlake. There are other country music artist names that are thrown in. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which ones they are. But, it's not just Justin Timberlake. Now, when we talk about where we can build a ballpark, a lot of the arguments that I've seen involve kind of right where the Tennessee Titans Stadium is, except it'll be on the opposite side of the river. That is one location. And then another one being they would actually move the Nashville Sounds out of Nashville, and then they would basically rebuild that stadium for a major league team. Now, where I wouldn't mind seeing something happen, or where I see the best possible way to do it, and not have to worry about kicking businesses out of Nashville to make room for a Major League Baseball team, is actually putting it where they're going to put the Major League Soccer team, and that's over in the city fairgrounds. Now, I'm not saying get rid of the MLS team, but what I'm saying is putting the stadium kind of near that. And what you could do is you can actually start to kind of maybe create a sports complex, kind of like Philadelphia. I don't know if you've ever been in the Philadelphia area, but Philly has all of their sports stadiums basically in one location, and it's a whole complex.
I haven't been to the Philadelphia area, but I have been to the Dallas area. So where they have the Rangers Park, the AT&T Stadium is not far from there. So I would agree with you. Don't get rid of any businesses, any other sports teams, because Nashville's a growing city.
It is.
And people who are moving there, they're diverse. They want to see different things. There might be a person who enjoys soccer but not baseball. So I think they should probably try to accommodate and have both teams there.
Now, a lot of people ask, why Nashville? Why would you bring a Major League Baseball team to Nashville? Well, one, we have the Sounds already. It's already shown that we are a part of a baseball community. But then on top of that, you have to look. Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, loves Nashville. And I think a lot of the baseball community as a whole really likes Nashville. And Nashville, as you talked about, is a growing city. We are getting more and more people moving down here in the Nashville area. So I think at this time, it's just a spotlight for us to put a baseball team here, especially with we have the Grizzlies, we have the Predators, we have the Tennessee Titans, and then we also now have Nashville SC, the soccer team. Well, all major league teams, the only one we're really missing is baseball. So maybe the question isn't why Nashville, but why not Nashville, right?
Yeah.
I think it's more of a prime location really than anywhere else.
And it is one of the fastest growing cities in America.
Yep. And then I also will say on top of that, a lot of people are talking about not like people aren't wanting to expand Major League Baseball. Okay, well that's fine. We don't have to necessarily expand Major League Baseball, but what we could do is getting rid of another team, and there have been talks about doing that. I think it's the Tampa Bay Rays down in Florida. They actually had the lowest fan attendance across the league. Well, if no one's attending those games, no one's buying those tickets. I mean, could we see Tampa Bay moving to Nashville? I think it's a possibility.
That's a good question.
We'll just have to wait and see how that whole thing pans out, and hopefully we can actually get some people to talk to. Maybe we can figure out a way to get some more information. But like I said, I would actually love to see Major League Baseball coming to Nashville. But now we're going to switch it over to national sports, and the first topic is going to be the NFL, which returned this past weekend. And, man, let me tell you, it was rough. There were some things I didn't like. There were some things I did like, but, that's just how the season goes. Yes. Let's talk Tom Brady.
Oh, I think I very much so liked what happened to Tom Brady. He did not win. The Buccaneers played New Orleans, and New Orleans won 34-23. Tom Brady, 2 interceptions, 1 for a pick six. And, I hate to sound like a hater, but I'm sick of seeing Tom Brady win. So he caught a loss. Hooray. Like, this guy is actually capable of losing. I didn't know it, but now the whole world knows.
Oh, I know. And I was actually really shocked that Rob Gronkowski didn't do much of that game at all. They didn't really look towards him at all. Used him more of just like an additional blocker, but I think he was targeted maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the whole entire game. But I'm with you. I mean, Tom Brady going down like that, I won't lie, kind of made me happy.
Did it make you sleep better at night?
A little bit, But the only problem is what happened Sunday night, but we'll get into that in a second. On top of Tom Brady, I mean, the Saints looked incredible. In my opinion, the Saints looked Super Bowl caliber. Now, it's super early in the season.
Yeah, I don't know if we can say it's week 1.
It's hard. I understand, and I'm definitely not one to sit here.
Be careful what you say, because we're going to go back and say, Jeff said Super Bowl caliber, and they don't even make it to the playoffs. So.
I know, right? But, man, they looked super strong out there. Drew Brees looked really young, looked vibrant. It looked like he was just ready to start throwing touchdown passes. And so I'm excited to see their rest of the season.
Maybe all that rest time he had in quarantine. Maybe it wasn't a bad thing after all.
Maybe had a little rough spot. But now that I think he's focused, I think he'll have a good time. I think, and seeing the talent around him,
a
little scary, especially if you're a Dallas fan. But now we'll jump into that. Dallas, Sunday night football. Dallas going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Dallas did not win.
And you know what? It was a last second call that I do not agree with it. Last stretch, about 50 seconds on the clock. The ref called offensive pass interference. And, after the game, I text my buddy who is a sports anchor in St. Louis, and I said, that was a horrible call. And he sent me back the gift with the eyes covered like this. He said, no, it's not. It was, it's fine. We're 1-0. I said, for now. But for now, I believe I saw the replay. He extended. He didn't grab. He didn't tug. He just made space. Mm-hmm. And I just don't agree with the call. I believe when you're in such a close, when the game is on the line, the refs should not make a call that's going to interfere with the game.
Right. And I mean, I think that's one of those textbook plays that directly influenced the outcome of the game. Because Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, if they make that pass, very easily could have gotten a touchdown. Not to put the LA Rams defense down. I'm just saying it's something that Dallas has been pretty decent about time and time again, or is getting those yardages to get into the end zone, or looking to Michael Gallup to get into the end zone, or Amari Cooper, or CeeDee Lamb now for this season.
Yeah.
And I think when I look at that replay, what I see is definitely not offensive pass interference. Did he extend the arm? Yes, and that is technically the rule. However, Ramsey really played it off. Yeah.
Yeah, like Academy Award goes to.
Yeah. To me, it looked more like Michael Gallup just kind of had a hand on him and let his hand just kind of be like trying to figure out where he's at.
He did not grab.
Didn't
did
grab
not push.
anything.
He just extended his arm.
Yep, and according to the rule book, that the extension of the arm is offensive pass interference. But I think the acting career of Ramsey is definitely underway for the season.
Well, if we focus on less of the on-field, play and the actual surrounding, the SoFi Stadium, amazing. It sits on 300 acres. It cost about $5 to $6 billion, and it's just amazing. It's futuristic. It's what it is.
Jerry Jones is already doing some work with an architect to get back his status of best NFL stadium.
He was sitting there front row, and I'm pretty sure he was, taking it in like, okay, we need to fix this at AT&T Stadium and this. He took 2 losses that night. He no longer has the best stadium.
No, he does not. But we're gonna go into last night, Titans versus Broncos. Titans take a win. 16-14 over the Broncos, but I will not lie, it was probably one of the ugliest wins I have ever seen.
And this is what I was alluding to earlier in the show when I was speaking about the high school kickers. You have a pro kicker who missed 3 field goals, but he's one of the most prolific kickers in the game. So I don't know if it was nerves for him. He used to play for the New England Patriots, and it's like new kid jitter, new kid on the block. He has to live up to these expectations. But there's a lot of pressure on kickers anyway. You have one job. But
if you're off by this much, you're not doing your job, and that's what makes it hard to be a kicker. I mean, you have to be super accurate every single time that you step up to kick that ball. But on top of that, I mean, Titans have gone, I think this was their first game in X amount of games. I want to say 10. I might be wrong on that number. That they didn't even go for a field goal. Because last season they had field goal troubles.
Yes.
So bad that Coach Vrabel was just like, okay, well, then we're done kicking field goals. All right, so we're just going to start going for 2 on everything.
That's, very tough. And I'm pretty sure when Steven missed his first 3, they were probably like, oh, here we go again. I thought we signed someone who could help us get over this hump, but here we go again. He missed 3 in a row.
But on that fourth one that at the end of it really, truly mattered, he was able to put one into the uprights. And that's
what matters. Fourth quarter, you want your kicker to come through. What's crazy is he missed 3. That's the most he's ever missed in his whole 5-year span career.
Yeah.
And he missed 3 in one night. I mean, the Titans have to worry about that, but also they faced a defense that didn't have Von Miller. He's out with an ankle injury for 3 to 6 months, so that's a big factor, and, they still kind of struggled.
That is true. It'll be interesting to see how they progress throughout the season. And a lot of these teams are using this first week as a scrimmage game or just looking to see what their team looks like for the season. Now, obviously, you don't want to go out there and not win, but at the same time, no one's had reps, no one's had any scrimmages, no one did any preseason games.
Yeah.
So these coaches really have to look at this as kind of like the first time being able to see their team in full action.
And that's so tough. LA Rams are actually featured on Hard Knocks this season, which is a documentary series, and they were discussing how they don't have preseason to be able to tell who they're going to cut. So the rookies who need those reps, the unsigned agents or the unsigned players who really need to prove that they can play in this league, they really didn't get that opportunity this season because there were no preseason games.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and switch it over to Major League Baseball. We're just going to kind of go through the standings real quick. In the American League East, Tampa Bay Rays sitting at the top, which is actually shocking. Good team, just no one really wants to go to the games. American League Central, White Sox on top. This one actually shocked me, not because of anything, just because I haven't really paid attention to the White Sox too much, but apparently they are actually good this season. American League West, the Athletics, they've actually been kind of the past few seasons working their way back to the top. So I'm actually excited to see them in the playoffs and see what they can actually do. Switching over to the National League East, the Atlanta Braves. They're sitting on top kind of by commanding lead. I think it's 28. They have like an 8-game lead over I forget who's sitting in second place. But the National League Central, Cubs are on top. National League West, the Dodgers. It's actually pretty close to what last season looked like for Major League Baseball. I expect to see Braves and Dodgers battling for the National League title.
What really surprises me about this Major League Baseball situation, we're 2 weeks away from the playoffs already, and they've already played 60 games. 60
Baseball,
games.
Oh yeah, baseball. They played probably about. I mean, some teams are playing like 8 games a week.
That's
maybe
crazy.
not 8 games a week, but they're playing quite a bit. But I will tell you what is important. Speaking of playoffs, the NBA Finals are coming up. LeBron making his return to the Western Conference Finals.
That's right, but I think all of this rest for LeBron will play out well. He's still resting. They don't play until Friday. You have the Western Conference Finals, Lakers. They're waiting for the Clippers versus the Nuggets, which that game is tonight. The series is tied 3-3. Who do you want to see win that game?
Man, I think I'd like to see the Clippers. I'd like to see Kawhi Leonard go.
Yeah, I want to see it too. You know, when he was doing his trade talk a few seasons ago, when he was still with the Raptors, last season actually, I was hoping that I knew he was coming back to LA. You know, hometown. He wants to go back home. He's familiar with the area. The Raptors, that was more of a business deal. Now he can kind of settle in his career. So I knew he was coming back to LA. But what I wanted to see was him play with LeBron and hook up with the Lakers. It didn't happen, obviously. And I'm pretty sure me and some other LeBron James fans are like sitting, wishing and daydreaming of what would have happened. But now I want to see him go against LeBron. I want to see it because they compare him to LeBron. So I want to see what he looks like.
I think so. Now, I can't imagine what it's been like for these NBA players kind of living in this bubble. I mean, day in, day out, this is where you are.
Yeah, I think it would be difficult, but they have to have a mindset of discipline and a mindset that I get to play basketball again.
Right.
You know, I'm not at home, shut up in my house or whatever the case may be, but I get to go play the game that I love, that I'm so fortunate to play at this level and that I'm paid to do. You know, there was some cases where a player got in trouble for sneaking a guest into the bubble. And, you know, it's just like priorities. Come on.
Right.
You know, you realize that, okay, this is not going to be forever. It's just for a short amount of time. And you just have to realize I'm going to play, and eventually we're going to get done. But the longer you can stay in the bubble, the better it is. For the Eastern Conference Final, it's Celtics versus the Heat today. It's a big rivalry. I don't know if, you remember, but the Celtics and the Heat really don't have a good reputation together. It's they played 2010, 2011, 2012. Of course, the teams look different back then. The Heat, they had LeBron, D. Wade. They had a few other players, Shane Battier, Chris Bosh. They had Udonis Haslem. He's the only one who's still on the Heat team. So, I mean, everybody else fresh faces, and it's going to be a great game. That game tips off today at 6:30 too.
A lot of things moving into the sports world, and we are definitely excited to see what's going on. NFL is back. Major League Soccer, maybe we'll see a return with that one. Major League Baseball, playoffs are coming up. Western Finals, Eastern Finals, NBA Championships coming up. Pretty soon, it's going to be an exciting time in the sports world. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Crunch Time, and we'll be back next week with more all-around sports.